Hi, welcome again to MeetRx Success Stories. I'm Brooke, a coach here at MeetRx, and today I'm going to speak to Alicea. So thank you, Alicea, for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, what brought you to the carnivore diet?
Where should I start? It's a long story. Basically, I've been struggling with disordered eating patterns for decades. I'm 51 and a half, and since I was 15, I've just struggled with food. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s with the low fat craze, and my mom was a single mom. So we had like frosted donuts in the freezer, and I lived by a Taco Bell, and I didn't know, my mom didn't know. And so that I gained a little bit of weight. I wasn't ever obese, but I did gain weight in middle school. And then that stress of what happens to girls when that happens to a lot of them is that I just stuck to starvation. I thought, well, if skinny is going to be the thing, so I would not eat, and then I'd be so hungry, right? And then I would binge, and then I would starve, and for forever and ever and ever. So that lasted for decades. Then I went to probably in my late 30s, I don't know if I knew it was paleo, but I kind of heard like no grain and no dairy and more whole foods. And I don't know if there were podcasts, or if there were, I didn't really know that that was a thing then. So I started doing that, but I still had that eating thing. I wasn't really, it was still a thing. So I did lose weight, yes, and I felt like I was doing a more healthy thing, but it was just a more healthy eating disorder. I mean, honestly, which is so sad. And I wish I knew, of course, now because now I see it as like when I was not eating, though that's so wrong, unless now it's fasting, but I felt that
Oh, it's
high.
fasting. Yeah, now it's
Right.
fasting.
It was fasting, and I felt awesome. And so I'm like, if I knew now and did it in a healthy way, because I mean, there's a line, right? There's a line where it's fasting, and then there's a line where it's anorexia. And I was definitely on the anorexia side, and then binging, and it was horrendous, horrendous.
Yeah,
And then
the fasting is sort of like you're high on cortisol.
yeah, yeah. Or then I think, well, maybe I was in ketosis and that's why I felt so good, but
high
I
on
wasn't doing it.
high high on cortisol.
Yeah. But I didn't know. I
So
just
it was
didn't
the
know.
feasting part that you just didn't get right. What to feast on.
Exactly. Because I was going straight to the sugar because I was so hungry instead of fats and protein and fats. And then I didn't know. I didn't know. Actually, there's a time in high school where I ate apples. That's it. And
Was that like a month
I,
or a 2
it was about 2 months, I
month?
think. Yeah. And I lost a lot of weight, but it was crazy town, crazy. Yeah. So I went to paleo, like, and then I found keto probably 2015-ish when it was just starting to be a thing.
Oh,
And I
wait,
found podcasts.
let me just back up for a second. How was paleo for you? That must have really been a big change for you.
It did, but the only thing that my mindset and my eating disorders were still there.
Mhm.
So I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing it only to just make my body smaller. I didn't look at anything else, right? I even made my career, I'm still a personal trainer and Group X instructor. So I was teaching back then anywhere from 30 to 39 classes a week, thinking that that was okay.
So you were always really
And
active. So you're active, physically
yeah,
active and building muscles on. on paleo.
Yeah, but it was disordered, right? Who works out for 30 hours a week
Yeah.
and then doesn't eat and then eats? And I mean, I did. I had friends that did, but it
Yeah,
was just
I think
so
actually
disordered.
a lot of women have done this. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then I felt like such a hypocrite, right? Because I am training people and being in front of all these people, and they're thinking, wow, look at her. And inside, I was just unhealthy and miserable and searching for something. And I didn't know. I didn't know.
So you were paleo, and then you sort of went into keto, and that sort of gave you a different kind of outlook on macros and things. And how did that work?
Yeah. Then I started listening to podcasts and kind of researching and seeing that, looking more at what am I eating and why that works with the ketosis and fasting. But then I was still coming from an eating disorder brain. Fasting looked awesome, of course, to me, right? So I was like, oh, I could just fast and then be in ketosis. And so I was just looking at it from the wrong lens. And I would say, yes, it worked. I mean, I felt better, but my brain was just like, and then I started like, instead of chasing the scale, then I was chasing the ketones, and I got the meters, and I was plucking my fingers all the time. And then I was fasting, and I wasn't sharing any of that part with my husband. And we've been married 8 years now, and I kind of hid it all because I knew I wasn't doing it the right way. And I was listening to podcasts and gleaning from what they were doing. And yes, I was kind of eating, but I was still in that binge purge model from
Would
2005 to 2018.
would you have called
Seriously.
that, now thinking back, would you have called that stressful?
Like emotionally or physically on my body or both?
Both, either, kind of the same.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what it was is too, of like all the nuts, because on keto you can eat nuts, and then not chocolate covered nuts. Are you kidding me? And the fat bombs, I was living on fat bombs,
Yeah.
thinking that was okay. I mean, they're okay if you do it,
They're okay. I mean, they're
I don't,
tasty. They're delicious.
oh, they're
Yeah.
so good. And nut butters and,
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh. But for me, I am not a moderator, and I'm okay with that. I'm an abstainer, and it was just, yeah, it was for me. I wouldn't want to scare anybody else away from doing keto, because I think if they could see and they have a healthy relationship with food, which I'm still working on that. I think keto could maybe work for a lot of people, but it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I
No.
understand. Well, certainly, and we could just talk, we could talk a whole paragraph on just nuts, because nuts are
Oh
so
yeah.
tasty and delicious and crunchy and fun to eat, and they really are not good for you. But it's hard for people to wrap their head around that. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
hard to digest, and the polyunsaturated fatty acids aren't good for you. And yeah, yeah.
And they were very addicting to
They're
me. I
so
have some
addictive.
friends, yeah, some friends, they could just have like a little bit of almonds and then they're full. Like, that does not happen. I mean, I would have like cashews and macadamia nuts and then make a smoothie with my spinach and more nuts and then eat more nuts. And then I was still hungry and bloated and like, what's going on? Why
Yeah.
can't I do this keto thing? And just trying and trying and trying and hiding like the ugly parts from people, and like, yes, I'm keto, but I was really struggling at that part. Yeah, it was like 2015 to 2018 and beyond, actually, because I've only been carnivore 9 months. So that was a good 5 years of
So
struggling. But then again, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so when you when you reached carnivore, when you reached the shores of carnivore, and you just sort of started to drop plants and nuts, what were those changes like? How did those changes feel to you to drop certain problematic foods?
I felt like, because there's no one in my life personally, and my husband, actually I hid it for 2 weeks from my husband because I thought he'd be like, here she goes again, she's on the crazy train. So I'm like, let me just try this, because I was even thinking maybe this is not good for me. But then I knew deep down it was, and I had a whole list of doctors and you guys that were doing it. So I cut out the veggies and just did the meat. But then I was keeping some stuff in at the beginning because I thought, because the sweet stuff, right? So I kept kombucha here and there, and I kept coffee, and I'm still drinking coffee. And so that's how I started, like, get rid of the nuts. And then I even would have a little bit of dried fruit in the way beginning just to kind of wean off.
Yeah.
And I did feel better. Just like, I couldn't even explain it. It was more like a peace or a calm. Like there's something's going on here, something's happening. But with my eating disorder past, or disordered eating, however we want to say it, with the dried fruit, I noticed that urge would come back. Like that sweet would make me want more and think of it more. And I'm like, that's something I need to work on. I need to wean myself off of the fruit. And so I just now did that actually like 6 weeks ago. So it took me a while to get rid of the extras.
And then there's also, you're dropping things, but just as importantly, or more importantly, actually, when you're dropping fat bombs, maybe you're starting to add more meat. Maybe you're finally eating more meat. Or, when you were keto, because keto, people could just eat chicken breast and fat bombs and vegetables.
Yeah.
So
I didn't eat.
Different than carnivore, which really is focused on animal foods, even if you include, coffee or honey, or it's still focused on animal food. So when that happened, how did that happen? Or were you always eating beef even with keto?
I was always eating beef, but not, sorry, not as much as I am now. Now I have probably 2 pounds of beef or meat, mostly beef, a day, and mad. But it didn't start like that. But now it's like, that's all I want. That's all I crave.
More protein, a lot more protein now.
Yeah, which was a fear of mine at first, because then I was thinking keto brain still, like, I'm not gonna be in ketosis, or am I, or maybe I am. And then I finally, like 2 months in, I'm like, who cares? I feel amazing. I've lost 10 pounds. Who cares if I'm in ketosis or not? So I had to kind of build myself up to that point, because my brain was automatically to looking at the numbers and looking at the macros and trying to figure this out, instead of feeling what I feel amazing. And I actually, of course I wanted to lose that 10 pounds, but I wasn't overweight. I'm very muscular and probably 15% body fat.
Yeah, you
but
look strong.
Yeah, but I lost 10 pounds and hallelujah, but it wasn't like I needed to, or people thought that I was overweight. I don't think, maybe they did, I don't know. But just the peace that I feel, and the binging and the purging and the thoughts, of course they still come in, but hardly ever. And that's worth it for me. Just that alone is it's amazing. And I want to tell people, and I want other people to do it, and all the people around me think I'm crazy. They think I'm nuts. So I'm just going to keep on this road, and maybe they'll start seeing or asking more questions, rather than me trying to like force it down their throat, which I'm not, but it's hard for me not to want to talk about it.
Yeah,
and I'm not hiding it.
Sounds like you feel much better. What can I ask then what is it that you're eating typically in a day now?
I am 90% OMAD. I mean, because I live in California and Nevada. So I'm in Nevada right now. So when I'm in Nevada, we go to church on Sundays and then we go eat at Cheesecake Factory every Sunday. So, and I don't want to I would, but I want to eat with my husband. So when I'm in Nevada every other month for a month, I too mad on Sundays. But other than that, unless I'm hungry, because then I don't want to be like, oh, I can't eat. Most of the time I'm at night, I eat around 6:30 or 7 with my husband, dinner. And but I'm not measuring, but I'm kind of gauging just to know, like I'm probably about 2 pounds of meat a night. And I still drink coffee and I put heavy whipping cream and and I know people will cringe right now, I still have perfect keto chocolate protein powder in my coffee. So that's the thing that I
What is
kind
that?
of,
Is that chocolate and coconut oil, basically?
yeah,
Stevia?
yeah,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
That's okay.
And so then I'm kind of on that line of like, but I feel great and I'm doing amazing. And so do I get rid of it just because it's not carnivore? I'm not at that point yet, but
Well,
I
I have to
could.
share with you, most carnivore people, most people eating a carnivore diet, not everyone, but most drink coffee.
Right, but I don't think they're doing protein powders, right? I mean, I've heard Sean and other people
They might
lately,
not.
like,
They might not be. They might.
yeah, but
But
I
but
I
you don't.
I
You know
like
what?
it.
We're not going to give you. You don't get. No one's going to give you a special badge.
I know. And because that I need to be careful with that too, because I could be really dogmatic. And sometimes people will say meat, salt, and water, and I'm like, oh, I should do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for now, I'm good. So
And
my
sometimes
coffee,
it's fun to do those things just to see. Oh, what did that feel like? But it's it's not. But you don't get any kind of merit badge from.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did give up coffee for 1 week because I do challenges on my Instagram account on Mondays. And then on Saturdays, I kind of do a rundown of because I do the challenges with them. And I did let's give up something. And I gave them the option of whatever they wanted. And I gave up coffee.
Yeah.
It was horrendous.
You had
I
headache.
mean, it showed me, no, actually, I thought I just had a tiny headache, but I had the worst back pain and sciatic.
What?
So, and then I was like YouTubing and other people too. Some people had that too.
Wow.
And then I thought, oh my gosh, my adrenals. And it just showed me how maybe coffee is bad for me. Or was it the
Or
protein
not.
powder?
Or not.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know,
when
but
you
it
gave
was,
up coffee, you also gave up the protein powder.
I
That's-
did. So then I thought, well, maybe it was that. But since then, I've brought it all back.
I mean,
I'm back on coffee.
coffee is so interesting because you can research and find plenty of cons, and you can research and find plenty of pros.
I
But
know. And same with vegetarian and vegan and carnivore. It's with everything, right? You could nitpick and find why vegetables are so good for you and why coffee is so bad for you. So that's been very confusing for me too, especially when I talk to other people, because then they'll just throw their vegetable stories at me. And then I'm just like, meat.
Well, one thing I discovered with this kind of spiral-like journey through finding the answer of optimum health, and it's been a long spiral journey for me too. Each pass of the spiral, there I do have, I learn more, and I learn more of the nuances. So it's not so much that carbohydrates are bad. I mean, just like fats, there's all kinds of different fats, and there's all kinds of different carbohydrates, and there's different proteins. So it's really kind of like finding the ones that are more optimum, and not necessarily demonizing a whole macro. I mean, I'm learning that
Yeah.
because even with animal-based diets, you know, there's carbohydrate in liver and in eggs and in dairy food and some seafood. So there's some carbohydrate, even if you remained just in the animal kingdom. So it's not, but certainly, you know, my personal latest, because I know I'm interfering on this, but my personal latest is what to demonize is really about PUFAs. But, you know, which particular fat,
Yeah.
which is why nuts don't work. But
Yeah.
back to
I
your
think that
story.
they're both, I think I demonize both actually, the seed oils and the carbs. And I kind of need to, I've practiced like stepping back and like some people can have carbs, right? And some people can eat fruit. And I just know for me, it triggers and I want more. And that is not where I want to be. It's just a space that I know
Yeah,
I'm better not stepping into.
yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm sure some people are like, yeah, but you're having your chocolate protein powder, which is a sugar thing. And I totally get that. I'm like, I wonder if I like got rid of that, then I would feel even better. I mean, I
Is
feel
your
amazing.
chocolate
Maybe I
protein,
could
wait, is your
say
chocolate protein powder a sugar or is it stevia?
it's stevia, but it's sweet and it's
It's
like,
sweet tasting, but it's actually not a sugar then.
right. But some people think it's like that
Yeah, because if they're just
same
talking
as
about,
same.
or if they're talking about the sweet taste or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't want to give it up.
Well, yeah, well, you know, it doesn't sound like you need to because it looks like things are going well for you and what, you know, what, so I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we can pare away and pare away and pare away to this thing, but if your experience is anything like my experience, there's been different times that I've thought I was doing things correctly and got tighter and tighter, and only to only to discover that, you know, years later that I'm not thinking that same way at all. You know what I mean? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps to listen to other podcasts and see what other people have tried or done,
And listen to
you
your
know,
own
and
body because it sounds like you're doing great.
yeah, right. But then I've heard people too on podcasts and say, well, we think we feel great. I mean, I do. What if you could feel even better? And
Yeah.
then my brain goes, I need to give this up. And but I'm not there
Yes,
yet.
exactly. Yeah, there's yeah. For yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
no.
I mean, I do think maybe that's true. You know, maybe I could feel even better. That would be even better.
How's your
But right now I feel,
how's your sleep?
go ahead. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really, really good. Right before I started carnivore, I started in September 2020. And I thought I was starting perimenopause because I'm 51. And so I wasn't sleeping. I was getting up one or two times a night to go to the bathroom. And I was having some hot flashes. And that was another reason why maybe I should try this carnivore thing, because a lot of people said it gets rid of like everything. So that was another reason. So after I started, it took about a month or two and hot flashes completely gone. And my period came back on track completely. And so and sleep is great. And I used to be a snorer. I mean, horrendous snoring. And my husband would leave the room. And now I'm the one leaving the room because he's snoring and I'm no longer snoring. So it just like, not like I had like miraculous autoimmune disorders or anything. But the little things that have happened are pretty amazing to me.
Sounds
Yeah.
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 You know, protein is animal foods are amazing, nutrient dense, and we just
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you know, a lifetime of low protein can really wreak havoc on everything: your bones, your teeth, your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good
And
for
red
you.
meat is just, I was going to say I could live on it. And then I'm like, I am living on it.
Yeah, red meat really
I
is,
just,
yeah, truly, he is.
yeah, it's just, I feel so satiated and calm after I eat, and I look forward to it. I know many people, they've said to me, and I've heard other people on podcasts say, that's all you eat? Aren't you bored? And all that stuff. Like, no, that's all I want. I just want meat. I barbecue it. It's just done. It's easy. I still make my husband's, I'll throw him a little veggies and fruit, and he still eats a little bit of grains, and he's happy, I'm happy, and I feel really good
Good
on
for
it.
you. On that OMAD,
Yeah.
when you have dinner, so you're eating a couple pounds of meat, 1 or 2 pounds of beef or something. Do you have
Yeah.
eggs and seafood, cheese?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do eggs, and I love ground meat too, ground lamb and beef, ground turkey. And then sometimes I'll just put eggs in there, kind of runny. Oh, it's so good. When I'm in Nevada, like I said, we go to breakfast after church. So then I'm too mad. So those days I get omelet, quadruple bacon with a side of bacon and a side of butter. And they look at me like I'm nuts, but that's so good. So, I
Yeah,
mean, even too, like going to restaurants, you could totally do it. It's
yeah,
totally doable, whether you're keto or carnivore,
yeah.
So yeah. And sometimes I will, if we're going to dinner or we're going to a party, I'll eat a little bit before and then make sure what they're serving. Like tonight we're going to a hockey game, so I'm gonna bring like a bag of meatballs with me because I need to make sure I have enough food.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I eat even more when I get home if I'm still hungry. And that would have wigged me out before, because I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm eating too much. Why am I still hungry? But now it's like, no, I can eat. I'm feel wonderful on once a day,
That's
which
great.
at first I thought that was like an eating disorder. But I was watching Laura Spath, actually. Now she's more too mad, but I was seeing what she was doing, and I thought, well, I could try it. But it took me a while to get there. It took me like 4 months in the journey to get to OMAD.
Yeah,
And I do notice when I do too mad, 2 meals, I tend to eat more than 2 pounds. So
uh-huh.
I like to eat a lot. And so I rather eat once and just like have my mound of meat rather than split it up.
Yeah.
Right now, today, that's what I like.
Sounds like you're finding what works for you. That's just awesome. I applaud you for
Mhm.
that. You look good. Sounds like you feel good. Things are going well. So good for
Yeah,
you.
I feel really good.
Strong. You're saying strong, and I love it for women to be strong and have muscles, and good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't eat organ meats.
You don't
I
like them. You don't like the
don't.
taste.
No,
And what about
no.
bone broth or gelatinous cuts like beef cheeks or not tongue, beef cheeks or tail, things that are gelatinous, pot roast?
Um, Sometimes I'll do bone broth, but not like regularly. No. So that's probably another avenue that I could kind of go down.
I
And
mean,
I was buying,
you could add collagen to your coffee.
yeah, well, there's collagen in that protein powder
Well, there you
that
go.
I should give up.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you haven't heard it from me.
Right, right. But I was taking supplements for the organ supplements for a while, and then I heard a podcast with Judy Cho and Laura Spath, and they were saying how now things are coming out. I mean, I don't know all the facts. So I'm going to talk in my ignorance right
You
now
mean her
of
liver
like,
thing, her liver deal?
yeah, that
Vitamin
it's
A?
not good for you and we shouldn't
No,
eat it. But
well,
I don't know what.
I don't know. I mean, I think that synthetic vitamin A can be really problematic. And that man she had on was talking about, the topical vitamin A and that acne drug, which is extremely toxic. So
Yeah.
I mean, in that conversation, it was kind of combine the two, and I think they're very different. I think synthetic vitamin A and vitamin A and the A you get from liver is very different. But
Okay.
I personally think that if something is abhorrent to you, the taste of something, I think that's important to pay attention to, because things shouldn't taste bad. You shouldn't make yourself eat something that tastes bad. But at the same
Yeah.
time, as a biohacker, to pretend that organ meat doesn't have all kinds of different and possibly and very much so helpful properties is silly too. So you have to kind of weigh it out for yourself.
Yeah. I just don't. I tried like putting it in my food processor and making meatballs with lamb and beef and I couldn't eat it. I couldn't eat it.
Was that liver you meant?
With the liver. It was liver. Yeah.
Yeah, like heart, for instance, doesn't really have the same taste as liver at all. I mean, it kind of
Oh,
tastes like, it doesn't, to me, it almost just tastes like just grass-fed beef, like if it was ground up, for instance. And then kidneys are very, different. Sweetbreads are very different flavor than all of those things. And
uh-huh.
so you could bounce around if you wanted or not. Or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, I hear both sides of like people that don't eat organ meats and then some that do. And if you do eat them, then you get more nutrients and stuff. And so then I worry, but I did get my blood work when I was about 4 months into carnivore, and it was thyroid perfect, everything perfect.
Oh, great.
So when I'm in California and more like I'm 9 months now carnivore, when I'm around the year mark, I think I'll go again just to check.
Yeah.
And then kind of reassess.
And you ate eggs too, which is kind of
Yeah, I
like,
do eat eggs.
they're kind of like an organ meat in my mind. How nutritious.
Yeah. Yeah. I love eggs.
Yeah.
Really love eggs.
Well, it sounds good. It sounds like you're still you still teach?
Yeah, I teach. Yeah, I sub classes when I'm in Nevada because I'm not here to have my own classes anymore because we go back and forth. But yeah, I teach and I do some classes for free just for fun because I just love it. And I personal train when I'm in town. And yeah,
So you
it's
lift. It looks
really,
like you lift.
yeah. Yeah, I lift 4 times a week with my husband. We lift together and then sometimes I'll teach and lift on my own because
Fantastic.
he likes to do a lot of arms and back and so I need to go and do my legs.
Great.
I need to work my legs out. But yeah, it's super fun. I love it.
That sounds like
Yeah. And now that I feel like I've crossed the line of being more healthy and not so disordered with my over exercising and under eating, it's like a new avenue for me to just be motivational, and I don't feel like a hypocrite anymore because I was like starving myself and everybody thought, look how fit you are, and I was like, no, I'm really not.
If you're going to be weightlifting and working out, you need animal food. You need meat, really. You need animal food. And if you're going to be eating meat and animal food, then you need to be working out. I mean, you need to,
Yeah.
you need to use it. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking you need to use it. It really works well for the athletic life, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I did notice right when I went carnivore for about a month, maybe 2, I did feel a little sluggish and tired. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe just getting rid of all the carbs and veggies and oxalates or whatever it was. But then I'm back to where I was and I feel good. Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, but do you have a piece of advice for someone who is just starting out?
For newbies, I would say listen to MeatRx, listen to other podcasts on carnivore, get plugged in, and just so you have that community, because if you're not around carnivores like I'm not, I kind of sometimes second guess, and then if there's like that's not healthy and kind of listen to your body, listen to other podcasts, maybe join a meetup. I think I might do that. Join a meetup group and just be, now that things are opening up after the Rona, like face to face with people that are in the carnivore space, and just, yeah, and just know it's your body's going to tell you, and it's amazing. And especially if anyone out there has struggled with eating disorders or binge and purge and just restriction, I would say give it a go. I mean, really. And it's just given me a peace, and I feel satiated. Those disordered thoughts are, I mean, of course they come in, but most of them are gone, and I'm eating, and I feel good. I feel really great. And I just want everybody to do it too. I mean, not like they have to, but if they're searching for something and what they're doing isn't working, why not try?
Yeah.
Just try. Yeah. And I know many of them, well, they come back to me as like, but is it healthy? And that's too much fat. And what about saturated fat? And they're still stuck in that space. Even my mom, I'm trying to get her to eat more meat, which slowly she is, but it's the fat thing that she's fighting me on. Yeah.
Well,
But I think she's seeing the progress in me, and I think that's what I could do, right? Just live happy and fit, and then if they see like, what are you doing? Then I can tell them.
very good. Good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alicea.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Carrying on with your awesome life.
Yes, I love it.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Bye.